Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you.
Evening,
Our Chief
Chair.
Executive with us as well, and Director. So we'll make a wee start just at 7, all being well.
Okay, Chair. Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll make a wee start. Is the recording on? I'm sure these meetings are recorded anyway on WebEx.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, members, we'll get back into the swing of a virtual meeting this evening. Just to welcome you all to the Regeneration Community meeting tonight on WebEx, the 16th of January. And we'll go to the first item on our agenda is apologies. Maybe we don't have any apologies. I haven't received any, so.
Hi, Mark. Councillor Green here. Apologies from Councillor McColgan and Councillor Catherine Kelly.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Okay.
Mark,
Glenn,
sorry, apologies. I thought I had is there an apology from Councillor McCann, or am I incorrect here? I may be incorrect. Sorry, apologies. Wrong committee.
no problem. All right.
It wouldn't mean this committee. Sorry, apologies.
No problem. That's okay. Well, we'll go ahead, members. If there's any more apologies, we'll pick them up. Item number 2 is to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 12th of December. We'll get them minutes signed, members. And item 3, is there any declarations of interest? Okay, I don't see any hands at this point, so
Chair.
move on. Yeah,
Chair.
go ahead.
No, it's probably a need to declare an interest in item 4.1. It's just to update report on the event strategy working group, but there should be nothing out of the ordinary there, but I'll declare an interest. Sorry, I just
Okay.
couldn't raise my hand there. I don't know why. Okay.
No, you're
thank you,
okay.
Chair.
Councillor Thompson, okay. And Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. Good evening, Chair.
Chair, Councillor Armstrong's gone on mute, maybe just.
I beg your pardon. Thank you, Alison. Good evening, everyone. Yes, item 5.4, the report on various development initiatives, various tourism development as part of a member of the VEGP. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly?
Thanks, Chair. Agenda item 5.4 is an employee of Waterways Ireland. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, thank you. Item 4 is our community and wellbeing reports. 4.1 is to consider update report on events strategy working group, paper A, and that's over to our director, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, the first report here is on the event strategy working group. Really 2 elements to it. One is to provide an update on the event strategy working group from way back on the 16th of November. And as part of that, and was as discussed at that, to seek approval for the prospectus for inward sponsorship opportunities across a range of council events. The event strategy working group minutes are included in Appendix 1 of the report, but just in relation to the inward sponsorship, the council did approve an inward sponsorship policy in 2020, and as part of that, just in the run up to the Christmas lights switch on, we did do an expression of interest out there to local businesses for that switch on, and I have to say it was actually encouraging, the response that we got. Now, we probably just didn't go out in time in order to make it effective, but it did give some indication of the level of interest that was there in the possibility of sponsorship for events and various things. So we're recommending that we provide, or we draw up an inward sponsorship prospectus across a range of council services and activities, and that we market that to develop and showcase all of the benefits of sponsorship to local businesses. So therefore, Chair, to the recommendations, it's recommended that the council notes the event strategy working group draft minutes of the 16th of November and approves the request to develop an inward sponsorship prospectus for the range of events and activities.
Thank you, John. Thank you. You've heard the recommendations, members. We'll go to Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, John, thank you for the report. I'm happy to recommend both noting the draft minutes and the request to develop the inward sponsorship prospectus. I do think collaborative working is certainly the way forward, so I welcome keeping abreast of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Happy to
Councillor
second
Armstrong.
that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rainey. That's proposed and seconded. Are we all agreed? Okay, thank you. Passed. 4.2 is a report to consider report on museum accreditation review, and that's with John as well.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the museum accreditation, it's a UK standard for museums and galleries. We last got it in 2018, and you are meant to submit a re-accreditation effectively every 3 years, but due to COVID, that didn't happen, and it was postponed in effect. We have been invited to compete in accreditation for submission in this month. As part of that, the museum is required to review all its policies and all the documents that make up the collections management framework. And you will see there is a revised framework which is attached to Appendix 1. And you know, it goes through, looks at all the different areas of the museum activity, and it is updated. I suppose one thing which is wider than any framework that has been previously, this framework places much greater emphasis on the museums and the heritage and the culture of the Omagh side of the district. Historically, as members will be aware, that the museum has been very much associated with Fermanagh Museum itself. But there is a lot of activity, and our heritage officer is working with a lot of groups in the Omagh side of the district in trying to get new partnerships, increase the collections relating to that Omagh side of the area, and that is reflected in the new framework. There are a number of other revisions, including new collections that we have in place, and audience engagement projects and so on that are included also in the framework. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council adopts the revised collections management framework and the set of museum collection management policies for Fermanagh County Museum, and approves the submission to the Northern Ireland Museums Council for the Fermanagh County Museum to maintain that accreditation, which is important for its status as a museum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Is there a proposer, members? Councillor Warrington. Councillor Warrington, maybe I think I saw his hand, but maybe not.
Chair, you did, and then Councillor Warrington may not have wished to speak, but he did. Certainly, his hand's back up again. Yeah.
Yeah, I just was proposing the recommendations, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councillor Green.
Yeah, I'm happy to second the proposal, but I just wanted to ask on there, in relation to Enniskillen Castle and museum, as a lot in around Enniskillen's regiments and that. I looked recently on the origins of the castle being the home of the Maguires. I haven't been in around the museum. I have to hold my hand up in a long time. So I'm just asking this: is that well interpreted in the museum? That is that give a good priority that the castle actually was the home of the Maguires originally. I would compare to the Enniskillen's part of the museum.
Yeah, Chair. The full history of the castle and the castle site is very adequately told in the museum, and the history of the Maguires or whatever is very much part of that story, and also the Enniskillen. So yes, I suppose in answer of the question, yes, the full history dating back from the very origins of the castle is very much told, and indeed the origins and the history of the island of Enniskillen itself is very, very well told.
Thank you, John. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I want to agree with the recommendations. Maybe if you could take a wee minute there, Director Boyle, and maybe give us a wee bit of a briefing more about the Omagh side of the district with regard to it.
Yeah, we've been doing quite a lot of work. We have a heritage officer which has been employed by the council for over a year now, and she has been working with a lot of groups on the Omagh side of the district in relation to the culture and the heritage on the Omagh side of the district, including the railways and including the music heritage of Omagh itself. And that's something that we would like and hope to expand in the coming years. We are developing a heritage plan for the district, and very much part of that heritage plan is the history of the Omagh side of the district, and we hope to bring that towards to members in the next couple of months. So hopefully that will be well reflected on the Omagh side of the district, the culture, the heritage, and from all aspects, whether it be built culture or all of those sorts of elements within that heritage plan. So I have to say, there are a lot of very good groups in the Omagh side of the district, and our heritage officer is working with those in order to gather all of the stories and to make sure that they're brought to the forefront.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks, John, for that. I think it was very important that you emphasise those issues with regard to the Omagh side, because the railway was very much part of our history in Omagh, as the music, and some really good singers and bands came from Omagh. And my own father was an employee of Northern Ireland Railways in Omagh, and I was there as a young child at the day of closure. So it's something that's very close to my heart. So thanks for that update there, Director Boyle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. And if it hasn't been seconded, I'm happy to propose we second this report. I just would like to firstly pay tribute to the Association of Friends of Fermanagh County Museum. I think it's wonderful that there is such interest and support. The document is fascinating reading, certainly for anyone who's not familiar, and I certainly am not familiar with the extent of the collections there. I mean, there's a huge, rich heritage for all residents in the district, and I enjoyed coming across a word I haven't encountered before, numismatics, which is a study of coins. So it was really interesting to see that. One question just is really, how regularly are the collections reviewed or looked at insurance purposes for insurance? You know, how regularly is that reviewed to make sure that they certainly are protected in the event of something catastrophic happening? Thank you.
Yeah, for insurance purposes, Chair, there's a review on an annual basis just to ensure that the latest valuations and whatever are applied to our insurance policies in relation to it. So yeah, we would be confident that we have appropriate assurance in relation to it. There, as Councillor Armstrong says, there are very important collections, and some of the most important throughout the regions are held in Fermanagh County Museum.
Thank you, John. And Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Glad to see the Fermanagh work progress. Another angle, just like Councillor Thompson. So I'm genuinely glad that the Fermanagh side is progressing, and the castle is a wonderful facility and all of that. There's no doubt about that. And to commend Melissa on the work she's doing at the Omagh side. I know there are groups out there that haven't been consulted yet by anybody, you know. So if a draft plan is being developed, groups that I know in and around Oma and Mid Tyrone and West Tyrone would want to be consulted. They would want, for example, proper reflection of the Gaelic heritage of the place. And that includes, GA, it includes, you know, the great Tyrone teams of the 1950s, making breakthroughs, all that kind of stuff. The language, the culture, the music, you know, folklore collection that might be at Dunullu, and people will want to see that, you know, properly reflected in any strategy. But my final point would be too that maybe it's not the business for tonight, but it should be the business for the future, is to revisit, if we can, the idea of a Tyrone County Museum in Oma, and that would of course involve collaboration with Strabane, Derry Strabane Council and Mid-Ulster. Just because the County of Tyrone, you know, divides into 3 local government authorities doesn't mean that county identity isn't strong. It's strong right across the board, and it's something at some point in the near future I would like some sort of a conceptual conversation about the future of that project, possibility of that in the future. Don't discard the notion of a Tyrone County Museum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McAuliffe. Okay, members, we've had that report proposed and seconded, and we're all agreed. Thank you. We'll move to 4.3, is to consider a report on Colca Lakelands UNESCO Global Geopark. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair. The report is an update on a Peace Plus project, Nature Recovery Network, Peatland and Upland Restoration, which is the lead partner is the Ulster Wildlife, and they intend to submit a funding application to the Peace Plus Programme Investment Area 5.1. And you will see there at 1.3.2 the aims of the project itself, and they're actually very important aims in relation again to our natural heritage, effectively, peatland restoration and invasive species removal, management planning and implementation at key locations, wildfire management, peatland and key species monitoring, stakeholder and community engagement, and capacity building, educational programs and communication at all levels. And they have asked for, as Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, the Geopark themselves don't have the ability to become a partner, but Fermanagh and Omagh District Council have the ability, and the Ulster Wildlife have asked if we would be interested in becoming a partner in the project. There are a number of partners included there which have already signed up at 1.3.1. The project would require, if successful, the recruitment of 2 temporary fixed-term staff for the project itself, a project officer and a graduate officer, and they would be both 100% funded through the programme. The second part of the report is in relation to the Geoparks meeting with Fermanagh and between Fermanagh and Omagh County Council, or Fermanagh and Omagh Council and Cavan County Council, and the minutes of that meeting are included in the appendix also, which includes the Dark Skies accreditation, which we'll come on to later. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the update on the Peace Plus Project Nature Recovery Network, and approves that Fermanagh and Omagh District Council be named as a partner within the project, and notes the draft minutes of the Colca Lakelands Global Geopark Committee of the 13th of December. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Okay, there's 2 recommendations within that report, members. If we could have a proposal, please.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie, and Councillor Donnelly. Anne-Marie, happy to second.
Happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
All agreed, members. Thank you. Okay, the next report is around the Dark Skies accreditation, paper D, an update report. John, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, in March of last year, RNC, the council had asked that we look into the possibility of an international dark skies park in our district. That we also have discussions with Mid Ulster Council to look at the extension of the Davag dark skies park, which already exists into our district. That we make representation to Slieve Bay Partnership to act as the lead organisation in developing an application to dark skies for dark sky status, and considers FinLaw. In relation to the first one, much work has been going on within the Geopark over the last number of years in relation to dark skies, and formal approval or initial inquiry was sent to the International Dark Skies Places in relation to developing a dark skies park, and we received a response back in November to say that the boundary of the Geopark includes some urban settlements. And that brings down the accreditation effectively for a park. But they did recommend that the Geopark should seriously consider the status of reserve. You will see there at section 1.4 of the report the different certification categories. One of them is International Dark Skies Reserves. So the International Dark Skies Places have recommended that we should move towards implementation of a reserve. Now that will involve a bit of work in making a formal application to the International Dark Skies Places, but the work that is already ongoing within the Geopark in relation to dark skies will really help with that application. There are, and some members may have already attended many of the events which have taken place in the Geopark, and if not, I would encourage members to go to some of those events. They are actually fantastic events where Armagh Planetarium, whatever, come and they give talks and have you look up at the sky at night. It's absolutely fantastic events. So we have been assigned a case officer from the International Dark Skies Programme to work on the application for reserve status for the Geopark. In relation to our interaction with Mid Ulster and Davig Forest, the expansion, the International Dark Skies Places, they make no provision for the expansion of a dark skies park. And if we were looking for it to be expanded into the Fermanagh area, the process of that would require a new application, which Mid Ulster Council wouldn't be too keen on making a new application for the park. The Slieve Bay area, members will be aware of the Shared Island funded feasibility study for the development of Slieve Bay. Dark skies wasn't an issue that came up during that consultation process. But certainly any of the suggestions that did come up as part of that process wouldn't work against the dark skies accreditation. However, in order to pursue an application, and it is quite extensive, and a lot of research has to be done in relation to dark skies, there would have to be a body who would take it forward, and the Slieve Bay Partnership itself wouldn't have the resources to take forward an application, and certainly Mid Ulster Council, it would certainly be uncertain as to whether they would welcome a designation so close to the Davig Forest designation which they have. In relation to FinLaw, and some work has been done in relation to this too. There are really no opportunities because of its size and because of its ownership. Dark skies area needs to be much larger than the FinLaw area itself in relation to it. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council does submit a formal application to become an International Dark Skies Reserve for the Geopark, and notes the update for the extension to the Davig Skies Park, Slieve Bay and FinLaw. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was looking through this here, and I noted the minutes of the March meeting where it said make representation to the Slieve Bay Partnership. Now I remember speaking on that meeting, and I know that's the way it was put down in the minutes, and probably my fault for not challenging them when I seen it. But my recollection was that we were looking into the possibility of the dark skies over in the Slieve Bay area, because I remember saying at the time, this is something that was originally brought up in the Slieve Bay Master Plan in 2017, been worked through the Air East project. Then it was with the Slieve Bay Partnership. I was at a right lot of that meetings, and the dark skies was mentioned at every single meeting that I was at. So I'm perplexed to know that there was seemed to be no interest in it in the consultant's final report. Just left me thinking that the time I was saying to them, I really quite very happy with the report, and I still am not. And this is the outworkings of the lacks of something that's not representative of what people were thinking. So, having said all that, I'm very disappointed. Ian, I think we were the first ones that mentioned about the dark skies over in Slieve Bay area. It now seems to have been taken over by the council for a project over in Ayrn West. So anyway, to say I'm very disappointed, to say the least. So I won't be recommending the report.
Okay, Councillor, thank you for that. Have we a proposer and seconder for the report before us, members? Paper D. Don't be shy now.
Proposed, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie, and a seconder, please.
I dissent from it.
Yeah, that's okay, Councillor Green.
I'll second it, Chair, if none of the Fermanagh colleagues coming in there. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I will note Councillor Green's comment, as everyone else agreed. Thank you. Okay, members, 4.5 on your agenda is a report from Director of Community and Wellbeing, paper E.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's a report for a letter of support to Brookborough and District Community Development Association, who have made an application to Development Trusts NI to obtain the road service site at Brookborough. It's owned by the Department of Infrastructure, but the disposal has been managed by DTNI on their behalf. The Brookborough and District Community Development Association, the current site really prohibits any further development due to its size, and they have made an application for the purchase of this new renewed site, either by purchase or community asset transfer. That disposal process commenced in December 23 with an expression of interest which has been accepted. But in order to take forward the next stage of the process, they need a letter of support from the council to support their bid. If members decide to provide that letter of support, it doesn't in any way construe any financial commitment by the council, or indeed provide any support for a planning application which may or may not be required following their acquisition of the site. Therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves a letter of support to Brookborough and District Community Development Association to accompany their application to purchase the site.
Thank you. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, obviously, this is on my own doorstep here, and certainly I'm happy enough to propose the recommendations that we do support, send a letter of support for them. I suppose a couple of questions. It is a good site. It's been lying vacant now probably since I think the whole DFI thing blew up in Brookborough, the yard being used around 2014. and so therefore it would be good to see the site being used for something. Have we any idea what the Railway House people have in mind for doing at the site? Have they given any indication what their plans are?
No, Chair. What they have said is that due to the size of the site at Station House where they are, that they're not able to develop any further. So I get the impression that they would be looking to move out and possibly to obtain funding in order to develop the renewed site, which would allow them to expand in the developments which they have in mind.
Yeah, well, that's obviously a great idea. It'll all come down to funding, I suppose, in the end. So that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Green.
Yeah, it's surely 10 years from the department decided that they were closing on they had to save money, the total time, and being the type of person I am, I delved into that and I pursued them for near 12 months to have finally got facts and figures of their money saving plan. And their money saving plan back 10 years ago was closed, and it was going to take 25 years before they saved 1 penny. So they've another 15 years ago before they make any savings on closing that Brucebury Yard, and Ayrn East and parts of Fermanagh has now been neglected. Overhead of that yard been closed. But anyway, that's a side issue. Just one victim, but no, I am more than happy to second the writing of a letter of support. I believe that yard would have been part of the old railway buildings there, so it's a natural thing for to fall in with the old railway station and that. So I'm more than happy to second.
Thank you. All members agreed that we send that letter. Okay, thank you. Item 4.6 is to consider the minutes of the Health and Social Care Services meeting held on the 14th of November 2023, paper F. These minutes are for noting members, so maybe if we could have a proposer and seconder of maybe a member who was at that meeting.
I'll propose, Chair.
Councillor Thompson, thank you. And Councillor Warrington, second. Thank you. Okay, members, that's passed. The next item, we're on to item 5.1, is to consider reporting corporate plan 24 to 28. And Siobhan's going to take us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm delighted to bring the draft corporate plan to the committee for approval this evening. As many of you know, the plan sets the strategic direction for the council for the next 4 years in terms of service delivery and how the council contributes to the shared outcomes within the community plan for the district. So this has been a dedicated piece of work spanning many months, and indeed some of you may recall attending workshops as far back as last February. And from there we've had various engagements with yourselves, with corporate leadership team, with heads of service and other staff, as well as a detailed analysis of all the research and evidence available to us. So this evening we're seeking approval to publicly consult on this draft document, and I would just like to draw your attention to some key areas actually within it. So the corporate plan contains the vision, mission, values and cross-cutting commitments of council. These cross-cutting commitments recognise the rurality of our district, the need to build positive relations, as well as our commitment to innovation, collaboration and continuous improvement. And more detail on each of these can be found on page 8 of the draft plan at Appendix 1. At its core, the plan contains 4 key priorities with associated high-level actions. And while these have been copied into the main body of your report, again, further detail can be found from page 16 onwards within the draft plan. So priority 1 looks at climate action, which seeks to embed sustainability and ensure progress towards net zero. It looks at actions around our assets, our waste management and our environment. Priority 2 is people and communities, with actions designed to provide opportunities for everyone to live well and centres on addressing poverty and disadvantage, improving well-being, supporting communities and enriching our heritage. Priority 3 focuses on shared prosperity with actions around the drivers for an inclusive economy, capital investment and sustainable quality places. And finally, last but not least, priority 4 is One Council, focusing on the governance required for an efficient, effective and agile council, which listens, engages and proactively communicates with a view to continuously innovate and improve. So for each of these priorities and the associated high-level actions, we have proposed bespoke performance measures, which will allow us to assess then progress and show how we are making a difference. And these are presented under each priority within the draft plan. So I would ask you to note it is an ambitious yet realistic roadmap. It recognises the challenging environmental and financial climate in which we're operating. It recognises the risks connected to future funding, which may impact on our ability to deliver, while also being very clear that as we continue to prioritise resources, we also continue to innovate to enable us to rise to those challenges. So our next step, as I said at the outset, is to proceed to public consultations, and members will note the detail of this in Appendix 2. The plan will be made available in a number of public council buildings, as well as through newspaper advertisements and dedicated promotion on social media and via our existing networks and partnerships. It will remain open for 9 weeks, commencing the 12th of February, and a report on the findings and associated proposed amendments arising out of the consultation will be presented to a future meeting for your consideration and approval. I would also note that the draft plan has been subject to screening in regards to the need for a quality impact assessment and has also underwent a rural needs impact assessment. And while no adverse impacts were identified during either of these processes, the plan, once finalised, would be reviewed again. However, no adverse impacts are anticipated, and copies of these will also be presented at a future meeting. So the recommendation, Chair, is that the draft plan is approved for consultation in line with the timeframe attached.
Thank you, Siobhan, for that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Siobhan for a very comprehensive report. I'm happy to propose the 2 parts of the recommendation, and I welcome everything that has happened thus far and obviously further engagement in the consultation. And I think it's very important that every part of the community of this district, the largest district in Northern Ireland, is reflected, and from one end of it to the other as well, in all different types of communities. So I welcome all the work thus far and happy to propose the recommendations, Chair. Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. That's proposed, and have I seconder, members?
Happy to second, Chair.
Okay, I'll take Alan for that. Thank you, Councillor Rainey. Okay, all agreed. Thank you, members. 5.2 is to consider business case report, paper H, and Anne's bringing that to us. Thanks, Anne.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So the purpose of this report is to provide an update on 3 business cases and to seek approval for 2 of them and to note the 3rd business case. The first business case is around the Grange retrofit project. And members will recall that the business case for the Grange for this project was brought to the Regeneration community meeting in October, and members asked that the business case was deferred pending the completion of the review of the Council's estate strategy. A review of the Council's estate strategy was brought to Environmental Services Committee on the 10th of January, and the review concluded that the Council has and will continue to have an ongoing requirement for civic and administrative provision in both the Grange and the Town Hall, and there was an ongoing need to maintain the buildings to provide capacity and capability on both sites. The business case for the Grange retrofit had asked for approval for the replacement of windows and for work to be completed to address the evident defects around the window reveals, sills and heads. The investment will contribute to the vision set out in the Council's estate strategy, a sustainable, well-managed and fit-for-purpose estate which supports the delivery of its services in an effective and efficient manner. The indicative cost of the project is £817,751, and the cost of the project is subject to approval for inclusion in the capital estimates programme for 2024-25, and the project is recommended for approval. The project meets the Council's strategic outcomes and directorate objectives. The second business case then is around Oma Leisure Centre deck changing facilities refurbishment. And the aim of the project is to refurbish the currently closed changing facilities for the deck gym at Oma Leisure Centre. The changing facilities have been closed since March 2020, initially due to the pandemic restrictions, but they didn't reopen due to health and safety concerns and mechanical and electrical issues. The refurbishment of Oma Leisure Centre, completed between 2013 and 2015, did not include any works at the deck changing area. In May 21, the Council's Regeneration and Community Committee approved a business case for investment of approximately 130,000 to address a range of issues identified in the deck changing area. However, prior to the commencement of the tender process, additional M&E defects were detected, and because of this, the Council was paused to allow for more detailed condition surveys to be undertaken. The scope of the project was then revised to take account of the issues raised through the condition survey, including significant issues with M&E, substantial works regarding drainage, and the replacement of air handling units within the deck changing area. The current changing provision does not meet with the industry guidance for gym users and is no longer a sustainable option for all complex patrons. The project seeks to bring into use changing facilities that are required to meet the forecasted increase in membership. The complex has seen membership grow from 2,172 in 2022-23 to 2,405 in October 23. A total of 74,184 casual customers visited the complex in 22-23, an increase from 52,243 from the previous year. And the number of people using the health suite has increased from 10,385 in 1920 to 11,833 in 22-23. There's also a planned expansion of the Learn to Swim programme. There are currently 1,450 places per week, and the expansion will see this number rising by 260 children per week in 2024. And income has been increasing at the complex. In 22-23, the total income was 983,000. The income for the current year, 23-24, currently stands at 849,000 for the 8-month period until the end of November. The projected income for 24-25 is expected to be 1.526 million, and that takes account of the planned expansion of the Learn to Swim programme. So the indicative budget for this project is £453,396. And yet again, the project will be completed in the 24-25 year and is subject to approval for inclusion in the estimates programme for 24-25. And the project is recommended for approval. The Council meets the Council's strategic outcomes and directorate objectives. And then for information, in July 23, members resolved that members should develop a business case for the possible installation of lighting at pathways at Bilcoo Cottage Lawn. And the business case was not recommended for approval because the proposed works are contrary to a number of council objectives included in the Climate Change and Sustainable Development Action Plan 22-24, the Biodiversity Strategy, the Energy Management Action Plan, and the Estate Strategy. Furthermore, the lighting of pathways is not a statutory requirement for council, and there's no agreed council policy for the lighting of public spaces. And there have been 5 requests for the lighting of other parks across the district, and the estimated cost of the work in the 5 parks is 330,000 plus annual maintenance costs. So in terms of the resource implications then, funding for the Grange retrofit project and the OLC deck changing facilities is subject to inclusion in the capital programme for 24-25. So the recommendation is that the Council approves the business case as detailed in 2.2 and 2.3 and notes the business case detailed in 2.4.
Thank you to you, Anne, for bringing that comprehensive report to us there. Councillor Withers is first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start by proposing the recommendation. I want to welcome particularly the Umma Leisure Centre and the refurbishment of the changing facilities. We know how important it is that as a facility being used by the public, that we have modern standards and that they're providing the service user with adequate facilities. As regards 2.2, Chair, I know this was discussed extensively at a previous meeting as regards the Grange retrofit project. And obviously it's crucial that the Grange is a joint civic and administrative building for our council district, that it's up to standard. Now, one thing I have noted before was that there was some conversation out there that this was 800,000 that we were spending on windows, which had basically doubled from the initial cost, which had been, I think, around 400,000. I think it's important that we as a council are highlighting that it's just much more than just windows. And it's important that it's the wider retrofit project to bring the building up to standard for our staff and for as a facility, civic facility, that is meeting modern standards for people's health and well-being particularly. And we know there's been some changes there around staff recently in terms of the Grange, so it's important that happens, that's highlighted, I think. And we're giving that positive message out there to the public rather than some of the negative feedback that there's been previously, Chair. So just happy to propose recommendations, and if that also could be noted just for any comments or statements that's been going out there, just a positive aspect of the retrofits from the Grange to ensure it's our joint civic and administrative building, how important that is. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for your proposal. Councillor Gannon is next.
Thank you, Chair, and it'll probably be no surprise to anyone what item I'm in particular coming in on, and that's 2.4 in the report, the lighting for the cottage lawn. You know, firstly, I just want to say it's very disappointing of how this has been presented. You know, over the past 4.5 years, this council on many occasions has shown its overwhelming support for this project. And not for the first time, it's nearly like it's being presented in a manner as if to sweep it away. And it's been picked up on by members of the public in Belcoo, and they're very angry about it. You know, it's evident that maybe officers aren't keen on the project for a number of reasons, and that's fair enough. But this council has been very clear on this specific project so far. I know it references other projects, but I don't believe any of the other 4 projects have had nearly as much discussion, nearly as many proposals or motion passed by council, and might I say, all of it passed by overwhelming majority. Chair, you know, people in Belcoo, in my opinion, are rightly furious that this has taken so long. 4.5 years, nearly 4.5 years at this point, from when it was first proposed. We looked into this in my time in council in October 2019. You know, obviously the report outlines reasons for it not to be approved. But I would, you know, looking at our plans, it's in line with our corporate plan. It's in line with our community plan on six out of the 8 outcomes that are outlined. You know, even if you look at that climate change and sustainable development action plan, there's areas of it which it meets, including outcome 5.2, for example, and potentially outcome 7.2. And again, you can interpret strategies whichever way you would like. And then we notice the corporate plan we've just approved for 24-28. In my opinion, it meets all 4 priorities we've just agreed to. Chair, and just to note, there's no agreed policy on lighting, so we don't have a firm policy on this. It's nearly a case-by-case basis at this stage. You know, and I think that, to be honest, the time for talking about this is over, really. You know, it's been going on for long enough. We've talked about it enough. I believe it's time to deliver on this project, and I will be proposing today that we do approve the business case, and I really hope another councillor comes in and seconds that proposal, especially given all the parties' support for this proposal, for these plans over the many years, given that some parties have stood on the cottage lawn saying how great an idea it is and how much they want to back it. I really hope someone comes in and seconds it. Chair, and if there's no unanimous agreement, Chair, if there's dissent on it, I'd like to request a recorded vote on that. If it gets seconded, and if there's dissent, obviously, if it's seconded and it's unanimously back, no need for. And if it's not seconded, well then it falls at that point.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
No problem. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Chief Executive, did you want to comment at this point on that particular issue?
Chair, certainly happy to. It's more just on a procedural point, Chair, and I note what Councillor Gannon has said and his concerns. However, our own processes, so we have a business case that hasn't met the threshold, can't approve the business case this evening. Certainly what members could ask is for the business case to be reconsidered in light of the comments that Councillor Gannon and indeed maybe other members would make. What I would note though, Chair, and I think this is something that certainly we can provide further information on, and I don't believe it's in the summary report, but certainly I know it is something that is assessed, and John may wish to comment, but it's my understanding that this is contrary now to the Dark Skies accreditation process. It's contrary to the Geopark Management Plan. So I say that in the context of if the business case was to be reviewed, I think it would be in the context, and this is maybe what Councillor Gannon is getting at, is to identify what alternate options may be available that do not conflict with those previously agreed and adopted plans. But we don't have a mechanism to overturn the business case approval or refusal, sorry, at this juncture.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. We'll take the rest of the speakers just at the minute. Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, yes. I'm coming in to speak actually on point the business case assessment 2.2, the Grange retrofit, and I had asked for a review of the council's assets, and I'm grateful to Director News that I had a conversation with about this today. The angle that I was coming in on, and my concern was really about affordability and value for money across the broader estate. I mean, two civic buildings are important because of the layout of our district, and certainly the civic function. We want to be assured of the optimum use of council facilities for council functions. However, I think we may be coming to a time into the near future where other allied buildings may not be used to their optimum because of the nature of working remotely. So I think it's something that we certainly do need to keep a watching brief on the desk requirements, the usage of the facilities of the council, and where opportunities do exist for space that is being underutilised to have possibly another source of revenue for the council. So thank you to Director News again for that conversation today. I know that is coming out of the capital programme. So in light of that information, and I'm happy to propose the recommendations for both the Oma Leisure Complex and the Grange. And given the Chief Executive's comments on the Dark Skies and how that will affect Belcoo, I would also approve all the recommendations in this report. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, members, I'm just not sure if we've lost Councillor Buchanan. Members, I might just ask if we can just pause the recording for a moment, please, and I'll see if we've an issue, and if not, we'll seek a pro tem chair if there's a problem. Sorry, excuse me, just a moment. Mckelduff as well, but yes, Councillor Armstrong had concluded her comments and seconded all the various proposals detailed in the report, and that's just repaused at that juncture.
So the meeting has restarted. Is that okay? Yep.
Yes, everything's back on, Chair.
Okay. Well, hopefully this will hold up. I'm just on a hotspot. So we'll go to Councillor Green now as the next hand, I see.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's I'm quite disturbed about this entire report, to be honest. I probably will support some of the recommendations, but we originally were given a figure of 420,000 approximately for the range, which at the time seemed a vast amount of money for windows. We've now come back with double that as a price. It's hard to figure out unless we actually seen the report itself of exactly how almost £1 million will have to be spent on replacing windows and fixing reveals and lintels. I'm perplexed by that. Then we have the Oma Leisure Centre change in facilities. Just out of curiosity, what does DEC mean? I don't see it. The DEC change in facilities. What does DEC stand for, or is it just DEC?
Yes, Chair, I can clarify on that if you wish. That was just at the time of the 2007 refurbishments. It was the Dynamic Energy Company, DEC, linked to the gym itself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so that has went from 129,000, our original estimate, almost quadrupled, up to 450, over 450, almost 455,000. Again, these shortfalls in our estimates, and then what we're being told is the actual budget that will be needed. Are we 100% sure these are the actual budgets? Because we are really seem to be having trouble nailing prices down at the minute. From 129 to 453 is shocking. And then we go on to the Belcoo one, and I very seldom agree with Councillor Gannon, but on this occasion, I do have to agree with them. This has been batted about the council for a long time. This report almost seems as if someone has wrote it with the express purpose of putting a dead hand on this one. All of a sudden, another 4 parks has appeared, unnamed parks. That has never been mentioned from councillors that I have ever seen. We're talking about the things that it doesn't, and again, I agree with Councillor Gannon. The health provision, you could name 10 things that it does agree with on our that if you wanted to rate it in favour of Belcoo, you could rate it. And then just how much, when the Chief Executive came in there, how much does a business case cost? So this could possibly having 2 business cases done. How much would that cost as well? And would that be good governance that we are going to a second business case now? And just exactly who writes the business case, because Killafole, for instance, in my own area, had a walkway around it and that, and I know there's no lights and that, but there was I presume a business case had to be done on it, and it got through. How does a business case be or what details be put into a business case or in favour or against? What would have been against the walkway? Was it against them couple of things there that was in our plan, like the climate change thing?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Green. We'll just bring in Councillor Tom.
Just Chair, I would be willing to second Councillor Gannon's proposal. If the Chief, I'm not sure whether the Chief Executive is saying that can't be done, but whatever can be done, I think needs to be done. I'm not so sure why we can't propose that it actually be done, because we have talked about it often enough and have supported it often enough.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Green. We'll bring in Councillor Thompson at this point as well.
Thank you, Chair. And
I asked a couple of questions, but obviously not.
Yeah, we'll get them, Councillor. Yeah, we will get them.
do you want to take Councillor Green there first and get his queries answered?
Yep, that's okay.
Go ahead.
Is John coming in on those, or Chief
No,
Executive?
I think I'll certainly come in on some, Chair, and then I know some of the costing aspects I may defer to Anne and to John. So maybe just to take the latter queries first, specifically around the business cases, what's included, the cost and the preparation. So in terms of our own policy, which the Council has adopted, the level of detail and the information required is generally commensurate with the level of investment. So anything that we would have for 500,000 and above would be typically economic appraisal. Below that, we would then have business cases. A large number of the business cases are done in-house. So to answer Councillor Green's one of the queries, Chair, would there be a cost associated with doing any revisions? There would be staff time, but there wouldn't be any procurement associated with it or any consultancy support on this particular business case. In relation to Killyfold, certainly one of the aspects I know in relation to Killyfold was the external funding that had been secured, which was obviously an attractive lever and was one of the things that defrayed the cost very significantly for the council. The other main issue, of course, in Killyfold was the very substantial health and safety risks at the site, to the extent that we were going to have to look at large areas potentially of closure or exclusions that would have prevented the community from accessing the facility. So it's not exactly comparing like with like. In relation to the cost increases, specifically on the Grange windows, I do think that was detailed quite considerably in October when this report was first brought to the committee. It also detailed the Watts report, which is referenced within the reports before members this evening in terms of the quantity surveying and associated costs for it. And I did at that meeting, Chair, and I would do so again this evening. It was not acceptable that the scope of the project was wrong the first time around and that an inaccurate figure was reported to the council. The accurate figure is before you. In terms of the assurance regarding that, Chair, all I can say is that that is based on the current rates and it is based on the scope of work. And certainly we would be satisfied that it would meet the requirements in terms of if it secures approval and we go to tender. Specifically in relation to Councillor Gannon's proposal, and that's why I said, Chair, I suppose at the outset, the issue that we have is really it's a governance one. So the council has agreed a mechanism as to how we assess and develop business cases. We have, and I would have to say there's not a dead hand, but we do have a project that has not met with a favourable business case. I think, and as I mentioned earlier, I think a bigger concern is the direct conflict with the Geopark Management Plan and the Dark Skies accreditation. And what I had suggested is that Councillor Gannon may wish to revisit his proposal to see what other options could be brought forward that would not conflict with those strategies and plans. And I do note other comments have been made around health and well-being. The other general comment I would make, maybe, Chair, and I know it's referenced in the report, is if members are of a view, particularly around health, lighting and those other elements, they are not something that we have a policy position on. And that is something that you may wish to consider at some point in the future. But specifically in relation to Cottage Lawn, what I would be suggesting is that the proposal is that it is revisited, but in the context of the significant environmental and policy constraints that exist on that site. And sorry, Chair, Anne or indeed John may wish to comment on the leisure centre, on the other costs related to that, because I do know there was separate commentary on it as well, or queries regarding it.
Thank you, Chief Executive. John?
Yeah, Chair, just specifically in relation to the deck changing facility, the original estimated cost of 129,000 is not for the same project as the 453,000. There is quite an extension of the works that is required in the deck changing room in order to get it open. While the work has been extended, that there is quite serious drainage issues in the deck changing area, and that will require quite a bit of work in order to fix, and that is a major part of the cost increase in relation to it. And I suppose in effect what we are trying to do here, because you will see from the figures there of the increased number of users of the leisure centre and that's a good news story in relation to Omagh. So what we are trying to do is bring those changing facilities in order to accommodate that increase, which we hadn't anticipated at the time of 2021. So there's an extensive piece of work that is required. So whilst the figures have increased quite substantially, yes, the project is not for the same project as was envisaged in 2021.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. John and Alison, we'll go to Councillor Thompson now.
Thank you very much, Chair. Interesting bit, and thanks to Director Boyle for his report, and Anne for all her work on it as well. I'm particularly supportive of obviously item 2.3, the Omagh Leisure Complex deck changing facilities refurbishment, and just with regard to that, I suppose as a former member of the Omagh Leisure Centre sort of group that was involved at the very start of the refurbishment, the way back in 2013-15. We done what we could at that time, and we done all the necessary work, and we brought it up to a fairly good standard. And we're now 10 years later. So these things have to be brought up to a standard where it meets the needs of our communities right across this district, and particularly with the Omagh side. And I know there's another issue obviously to do with Enniskillen, but certainly with regard to Omagh Leisure Complex, we want to see it remain as a state-of-the-art complex for our constituents and service users. Just with regard to the Grange, I suppose it's a 70s building, and that takes its toll on a building as well, all those years later, 50 years almost. So we have, as someone, Councillor Armstrong, I think, referred to it, that it's, we have such a large district here, largest district in Northern Ireland in geographical terms. So we have to have a facility that meets our needs, particularly in the Omagh side of our district. So I'm happy to support both parts of the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, members, we have different views on this. There's two different proposals on the table. Yeah, so Councillor Withers was our first proposal, which was seconded, which was with all the recommendations. So unless Councillor Withers, before we put that to the floor, that we would rework your proposal to tie in Councillor Gannon Green's proposal on that issue in Belcoo, but it's up to yourself.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to bring in Councillor Gannon's proposal, was supported by Councillor Green as well. Thank you.
Okay, so now if we clarify that, but just maybe Chief Executive, I think Councillor Gannon's proposal was that we would go with the business case, but I think that needs maybe reworked. Is that correct? According to
Chair, so I think Councillor Gannon's proposal that we would essentially that we would approve the business case and proceed with. So essentially, what I was saying, we don't have a mechanism. If I interpreted correctly, it's to be reconsidered in the context of the policies, but also we do have some fairly significant challenges in relation to the geopark, the dark skies accreditation, and our own strategies, but it's to see what could be done at that site that would not directly conflict, and certainly the lighting proposal as currently presented does that.
Okay, well, Councillor Gannon, are you happy with that, supported by the Chief Executive?
Unfortunately not, Chair. I don't, and I'll be very brief because I appreciate I've already been in, Chair. The Dark Sky Reserves says about a populated periphery, and Belcoo is already a lit area. It's not like we're throwing lights 500 metres away from where there are lights already. And as has been stressed multiple times, and in the initial proposal in October 2019, low-level lighting was what was requested, including lighting that can go off at times of the evening. And I think it is a matter of interpretation. Chair, just to give one example, that Grange retrofit, if I wanted to, I could interpret that it goes against priority 1, priority 3, and a priority 4 of the corporate plan based on assets, capital, sound capital investment, and strong governance. You can argue those things if you wish. And I have looked at the business case policy that is available now. I don't have the appendixes to hand, but as far as I'm aware, there is nothing to stop us approving this within the council's current governance. There's nothing there. I can't see the scoring matrix now. Maybe the chief executive might have that to hand, but I can't see anything in the policy that states we can't unless there's something in the appendix. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's okay. If you're not willing to change it, we'll have to put it to a vote. Anne, did you want on at this point?
Well, just to say that just within the options appraisal policy, that business cases with a value of up to 100,000 are approved by directors. That's within that is what's written in the policy. So, and just for clarification, sorry.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Warrington, did you want a quick comment?
Quick comment, Chair. Yes, Councillor Armstrong seconded Councillor Withers' proposal, so you will have to go back to board to see if she is happy with the changes in the proposal. Thank you.
Yes, apologies. I
Thank you, Chair.
that. So, Councillor Armstrong.
No, Chair.
So, say maybe if we could we take the first two and leave out the one that there's not agreement on? Could we take proposed by Councillor Withers and seconded by Councillor Armstrong? Is that okay? Is that okay, Councillor Armstrong, as well?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, are we all agreed on those two, members?
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we did have it proposed then, Withers and seconded by Councillor Armstrong, and Councillor Withers was content to change that, but Councillor Grannon has not agreed that. So can we keep our original proposal that was proposed by Councillor Withers and seconded by Councillor Armstrong?
Sorry to come in, Chair, but Councillor Withers agreed with my initial proposal. I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agreed with the Chief Executive's comments, so I would not be supporting that final, or I would support the recommendation of the report. Thank you.
Okay. What do we see? Councillor Warrington, is your hand still up from before, possibly, maybe? Okay. Well, we'll have to go to the original proposer to see, Councillor Withers, if you want to go with the original recommendation on that item in Belcoo, or if we need someone else to propose it, as in the report.
Thanks, Chair. No, given what's come to light now with the what's been recommended with Belcoo, I could only propose the initial recommendation in terms of Oma Leisure Complex and the Grange. So if that requires separate proposal, then I'll have to go ahead with that, Chair. Thank you.
No, that's okay. So we have that bit proposed. So we'll bring in Councillor Warrington now.
I'll propose the recommendation as stated in the officer's report, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So just keep me right, Chief Executive. We have that proposed and seconded now, but I do know that Councillor Gannon's proposal was seconded also by Councillor.
So the issue, Chair, with Councillor Gannon's proposal is it's not a competent proposal. So a layer is being proposed. So Anne has set out what is within the options appraisal. So that the business case has been assessed in the context of the council's approved options appraisal, and the business case has not been accepted, is not recommended for acceptance, which is why I had suggested that the cleanest route through this is for that to be revisited, to be reviewed.
Okay. Yep, okay, thank you. And Councillor Green, very quick, we'll have to just go to the vote on this one.
I'm not so sure whether I agree with the Chief Executive in around the lights. I know lights on the walkway. There's a few of them beside me. Lights can be tops put on them that it doesn't show up into the sky you're in, and I think we could easily get around the dark skies initiative. Culkia is far enough away. I don't think them lights would cause a big pile of pollution, light pollution, to be honest. So if there is another business case, and if a different lights or I don't know why this wasn't looked at in the startup, but if there's a set, I'm sure there's lights that can block out light pollution, and if that's the case, I'm wondering would Councillor Gannon be happy enough to go with that on the premise that another lighting system is looked at that will work along with the dark skies, because I don't think any of us want to cause any trouble with that, but I would be fairly confident that there is such a lighting system that could be used on that. And if there's another business case, I would be hoping that whoever's doing it will be doing it with the thought that the council, as time and time again, as Councillor Gannon said, supported this, and I would hope that they'd be looking at it with a solution-based hat on them, rather than to kill the project.
Okay. Anne is looking in there at this stage.
Sorry, just for information in terms of the lighting, and maybe this will help to inform the decision-making process here. An ecology survey has been undertaken to assess bat activity in the park, the dark corridors, and the potential lighting impact on the bats. And this has informed the lighting specification that was included in the business case for assessment. But a further bat survey would be required prior to the commencement of any construction works to, finalise the mitigation measures that are needed to reduce the impact of the work on the bat habitats. And this project would require planning permission. So as part of that planning process, then there would have to be consultation with agencies such as NIEA and DERA, and that would dictate the outcome of, that would dictate, they may have something to say in terms of lighting as well. So it's probably quite complicated, the whole, if the decision is made to proceed, it's not just as, it is quite complicated. So that's just for your information.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, members, I've just lost my hands. What do we see? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to Councillor Warrington's proposal, I'm going to second that again. Thank you, just in terms of housekeeping. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Director John Boyd.
Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to dark skies, the dark skies places, and you will see it in that report in paper D, there are a number of designations. We have been in contact with dark skies and national dark skies places in relation to which of them is the best. They have done an analysis of the geopark, and based on the current information that they have said, the best you can hope to achieve is the dark skies reserves. In effect, I would argue against the council trying to put in further lighting in urban places surrounding the geopark, because what we do not want to do for the importance of dark skies is to move down into the fourth item of urban night sky places. If we move there, then the designation becomes really something that isn't of any value to the district at all. So I would urge for members really to think about, the designation. And I know what Councillor Green is saying about different types of lighting. The International Dark Skies Places takes a very dim view, if I can use that term, on any sort of lighting that is in the geopark area or any area that is a dark skies initiative area, and they are very strict in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Members, we're going to have to bring this to a conclusion. It's been well rehearsed now, so we do have two proposals. And I see Councillor Gannon has his hand up. Now, Councillor Warrington's proposal, which was seconded by Diana Armstrong, was the original recommendation, and we can put that to a vote. Is that correct, Chief Executive?
Chair, that's where you are at the moment.
Okay, so members, that is that we go with what's before.
Just for clarity, Chair, just to clarify, How can we go with the original recommendation when two of the original points in the recommendation, 2 of the 3 is already passed and been voted on?
Yes, well, so sorry, I'll clarify. This is the part around the lighting and Belcoo. The other 2 have been passed. So this is the way it's worded in the papers tonight. This is what this vote is on. Councillor Warrington and seconded by Councillor
Point of
Armstrong.
order, Chair, just a recorded vote on this particular matter. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Can be done. Is there IT available to set? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll set it up now.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
Can I just say there's a few councillors, Marie Donnelly's computer, or she's having trouble getting in, so I'm not so sure this vote is, and I'm not sure whether Councillor McAdoo ever was got back in again. So just how accurate will this vote be? Councillor Donnelly's after messaging me there that she's now locked out.
Chair, Councillor McElduff advised me he was off site now, that he may not be returning to the meeting, but the vote would be current. We have a quorum and the vote would proceed. We could certainly invest.
Chair, apologies. Councillor Donny, my vote hasn't turned up yet.
No, well, funny, neither is mine. I don't think it's just came live yet, maybe, folks. So we'll just.
There should be a side screen available for members, Chair.
It's on the side screen, Chair. About a minute ago.
Councillor McArdle's after messaging me there as well. He has been shut out of the meeting as well. So we seem to be dropping like flies on this one. Anyway, we can re-vote on it at the full council meeting. Sure, hardly that important this vote.
Yeah, I mean, Chair, I'm looking very carefully at the site here. I'm not getting a vote option here.
Yeah, okay, members. Well, where I got mine, now mine wasn't showing, and there's 3 small squares on the right hand side of your screen, and I pressed that, and it took me to my vote. If anyone is struggling to find it, that's where I found mine. But
Chair, all members have an active vote screen just to confirm it is there and available. Now, certainly, if you wish, we can provide.
I think have we 10 members voted currently? Is that correct?
I understand.
Yeah. Chair. No, yeah.
11 now. So how many have we on the meeting tonight, folks? Members.
We have 11 councillors, Chair, so that would be all members.
Okay.
I think, sorry, we have 12. Let me just find.
Just one member maybe not voted yet.
Can I just check what the vote is, because my computer just completely shut down there, so I don't know where we are with this. So apologies,
okay.
Chair.
Okay, Councillor Donnelly. So this vote is on a proposal by Councillor Warrington, which is seconded by Councillor Armstrong, that we go with the recommendation as listed in the report tonight around the light in Belcoo.
Sorry,
so that's
thank you.
12 members voted now. Can you give us the result, please, Alison, or I can?
Sorry, Chair, I don't have.
Maybe you don't have it. I can.
Sorry, Chair, I'm seeing null amount of the information, Chair, in terms of numbers.
Okay.
All you're saying is percentages, Chair?
Yes. So we'll do slightly more, 58%. So we can work back in sums. Those who are good at sums in your head, 58% against, 42% for. So that would be defeated, Chair, regardless of numbers or percent. We'll calculate that back anyway.
Okay.
I think it's 7 against, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
That
members,
proposal falls then, Chair.
Yep, that's okay. Just let me get back to the screen. Okay, members, that proposal falls. Councillor Gannon, the proposal that you made is not set out by the Chief Executive. We can't accept that proposal. So if you were willing to amend yours, that we would look at a revised business case, is that correct, Chief Executive? To see what could be done, or if not, we'll have to look for another proposer to go with that and put it to the meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor,
I'm assuming you were inviting me in there, were you? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Look, Chair. First of all, I was looking at this options appraisal policy again and again, and it would suggest to me, and it says in point 4 of it in terms of the appraisal, that members approve any options or business case that is a sum greater than £30,000, which this is. So what I would like to see potentially is the policy with its attached appendixes sent out to members just for ease of viewing, because the appendices are not available on the council website that I can find conveniently anyway. In terms of this, Chair, I think, you know, the original proposal took note, and this goes, as I said many times, goes back to 2019, took note of bat-friendly lighting, environmentally friendly lighting, low-level lighting that'll turn off at a particular time because there's no need for it to be on all night. You know, there's a case here that I think that I would propose that a business case is produced or it's re-looked at, and that the business case is not decided upon by officers, that it's decided upon by members in line with point 4 of the options appraisal policy that is available on the council website. That is the publicly displayed policy, and I would assume if it's publicly available, it's our most up-to-date policy. That all the information that the officers have looked at is provided to members to make the decision on it at the next RNC meeting, because we can't have this delayed months upon months upon months. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members have heard that. Councillor Green?
I would. I think there was a proposal in there. If there was, I'll second it. Just one thing that I wanted to ask: when John, Director Boyle, said that about no more lighting in Belcoo, immediately I thought to myself, I thought, so is this dark skies proposal, then is all housing development now going to be banned in Belcoo? Because a housing development would have far greater lighting than there, or indeed even single dwellings in some cases would have more lighting than we walkway lights. So is that where we are going with this dark skies? Maybe Councillor or Director Boyle can clarify that.
Chair, just in
yes,
relation.
Councillor. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
John.
just in relation to dark skies, the dark skies review all of the areas round an area that is made an application to. And yes, it does depend on the number of individual houses, whether it be in rural areas or whatever. But then they look on the skyline and they see, you know, the various areas of the towns and villages. And that's why you will see why they have said we aren't eligible for an international dark skies parks. What we would have to do if there were lighting in Belcoo is that we would have to make another application to assess again. And I suppose what I was saying is is that you would not want us moving down to the urban night skies places, because that really isn't a designation of dark skies. It is one of the lower levels of designation. So we would have to reapply and take further advice from international dark skies places if there was such a case where they increase lighting. And in just way as the museum's accreditation, we would have to continually go for accreditation and if there were housing developments or whatever that had increased in that accreditation period, that would be reassessed again by the international dark skies places.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, members, we really do need to move on with this. Can I bring Alison in? Just Alison, would you clarify what you took from Councillor Gannon and Councillor Green's proposal and seconder, and see if we're all agreed with that?
Yes, Chair. Well, firstly, we can forward the documentation that members have requested. We can certainly do that. But I think, and I'm very conscious both Councillor Green and Councillor Gannon as members of the audit panel will know this, we do have an approved options appraisal. The business case has been assessed in the context of the approved options appraisal. The business case can be reviewed against that same options appraisal, but what Councillor Gannon is proposing is introducing a level that we do not have and a process that we do not have. Now, my interpretation of if we distill it all down, there is obviously a desire in relation to the council to be as supportive as possible to the project. It needs to be considered in the context of the constraints that exist for this site. Members in the course of the discussion have mentioned that there are other lighting and options available which may meet environmental or associated standards. I don't know what the cost implications for those would be, but they would be assessed in the context of a business case. If the expenditure is up to £100,000, as Anne has outlined, it is a matter of fact that that is determined by officers. If it is over that, then there are different reporting mechanisms and approvals that come in, but you can't require members to take a decision which is contrary to your own appraisal processes, Chair. I do understand the frustration and I do understand the annoyance that Councillor Gannon and Councillor Green are articulating, but we do have to work this within the policies that you as a council have set and agreed, which is why I come back to the original point that if we are to review it, we review the business case in the context of the constraints of the site and the agreed options appraisal. What I would say in terms of the proposed deadline of next February, next month, I don't know whether that is feasible because we will, as Anne has said, need to take further environmental and other guidance on this.
Okay, thank you. So members, if this proposal is to come before us, Councillor Gannon, you've heard that it has to tie in with the procedures already in place. Are you happy with that?
Chair, I'm confused regarding the policy, Chair, and I'm quoting page 3 of the options, the Fermanagh Omagh District Council options appraisal policy. It says under point 4, members are responsible for the approval of projects to proceed to tender and to award contracts to the most economically advantaged tender for projects with expenditure greater than 30,000. There is nowhere in this policy that I can see that mentions the 100,000. That's why I mentioned the appendices. It could be in the appendices. Maybe if Alison has the appendices to hand, that we could have, that they could be looked at for us, and we could then come to a conclusion, because the policy isn't clear in my view, given what's available.
Okay.
I have nothing further to add. I don't have any additional documentation here, but what has been recounted is what the requirements are within the council's approved options appraisal, and we could certainly forward any documentation subsequently.
Well,
what I would note, maybe, Chair, I'm not sure if this is in any way helpful. Councillor Green had mentioned in the context of voting, obviously you only have a recommendation in any case coming forward from this evening to the council meeting for ratification in February. We're in a position to provide you with the appraisals and the templates or the appendices, my apologies, or the other documentation in advance of that. I personally think what has been set out can be reflected in a competent proposal which allows a recommendation to come forward that is not at variance with our options appraisal or any of our own procedures.
Yep, I think we can do that, members. With your agreement, we can set out a proposal to go forward and review this, and maybe we will have to relook at it whenever, if not in February, whenever we can get that report brought back. Councillor Gannon, are you happy to propose that?
Look, given that and the fact that the policy isn't clear, Chair, I'll propose at this stage, and kind of thinking here as I'm speaking, that for the next meeting of our RNC, or that this policy, the options appraisal policy, is brought before us just to be reviewed, even emailed, like anything, just including attached appendices. Given what it says in the publicly available policy on our council website. Maybe, Chair, given this, until I can see the appendices, I disagree with the Chief Executive, and it's possibly because I don't have the full information, which would be potentially here. So I'll propose, Chair, that we defer decision on this until the RNC meeting next month. I think that will give time for the policy, the options policy, appraisals policy to be looked at as well by councillors, and then we can come to a decision on it then. I think that might be a way forward. I don't know if other councillors agree. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, that's a proposal to defer and have a look at that again. Is Councillor Green happy to second that? Because it was Councillor Green who had seconded previous.
Yeah, I'm happy enough.
Okay, members, thank you for your help with that, and to Alison and John as well. Okay, we'll move forward to 5.3, members, on your agenda. Is a report of the meeting of the Agricultural Liaison Group held on the 18th of December. And I think Kieran has some information for us on that. Thank you, Kieran.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that the Agricultural Liaison Group met on the 18th of December. As part of that meeting, they considered dairies revenue raising consultation, particularly around CAFRE tuition fees and bovine TB. Members also looked at financial challenges impacting on the agricultural sector, requested a meeting on the future 10-year funding programme, and considered decarbonisation and emissions affecting the agriculture section. So the recommendations are to note the update from the Agricultural Liaison Group meeting held on the 18th of December, and outlined the issue corresponds to the main political parties who are in negotiations with the Northern Ireland Office on a new and additional central government budgets. They also added, in the absence of a minister, that the DAERA Permanent Secretary and Head of Food, Farming and Rural Affairs be invited to a future meeting of the Agricultural Liaison Group to discuss 10-year funding programme, and also the progress on the Northern Ireland Countryside Survey and the soil sampling exercise underway at the minute. That an invitation be extended to Dale Farm to attend future meeting of the group to consider the management of decarbonisation emission processes, and that also correspondence be issued to Sheffield University requesting an update on the carbon capture study and to explore potential to pilot a scheme locally.
Thank you, Kieran. Councillor Green, can you propose them minutes first, please?
Yes, indeed I can. I see my hands up, so that was a big mistake, but yeah.
Thank you. And a seconder, please, members.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. All agreed. There'll be action, members. Thank you. And 5.4 is to consider a report on various tourism development initiatives. Kieran, is there anything on that one?
Again, members, I'm just going to my papers here, so apologise. The first item is just basically to note the work on the visitor experience development plan, and as I say, I'm just going to the papers here, regarding, and just an update on the visitor experience development plan, with the last meeting being held on the 19th of December. Item 2.2 is a request for sponsorship of the reception of the year competition and awards. This correspondence has been received from the Northern Ireland Hotels Federation. The event will be held in the Killyhaviland Hotel and Lodges on the 22nd of May 2024. The cost to support the competition and award is £1,600 plus VAT, but there is an opportunity with the offer association with the competition of promotional materials, an opportunity to speak at the awards dinner, and a table of 8 for the awards dinner on the 22nd of May in the Killyhaven Lakeland Hotel and Lodges. The initial calculations of the benefit to the district brings a £15,000 economic value with within the local area, with 200 guests coming to the event. So the recommendation is to note the minutes of the VD partnership meeting, which took place on the 19th of September, and note the update provided at the meeting held on the 19th of December, and provide a contribution of £1,600 plus VAT to the Northern Ireland Hotels Federation for the reception of the Year Award event on the 22nd of May at the Killyhaven Lakeside Hotel and Lodges.
Thank you, Kieran, for that. Can we have a proposer and seconder, please, Councillor Green?
Yeah, I'm happy to propose, but just one question there on that, Kieran. Was the right in hearing that there was 8 people being asked? That's, if I'm right in that, that's £200 a head plus VAT. It's surely going to be a really lavish feed that they're going to get at that type of money, but is that correct? And why is it so dear? Or maybe that's not dear nowadays. I don't know. I don't be out much.
I suppose it's their methodology of sponsoring the event, Councillor Green. So while you're quite correct in the cost in terms of 8 plates at £200 a head, so I suppose it's the promotion of the event, particularly the event happening in Fermanagh and Omagh, and particularly in Killyhaven. So it's that promotion of the event, as well as, and I suppose that's the value in terms of the 8 places. So it's not only the 8 places, but the value we're getting in terms of the promotion and marketing of the event within the district.
Okay, thank you for that, Kieran. And a seconder, please, members, for that report, please.
Seconded, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rennie. Okay, members, that takes us on to item 6. 6.1 is to note report on environmental health delegated decision record Q3, and that's paper K, and that's just for information and noting. We had a proposer and seconder, please. For 6.1, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, happy to propose.
You propose that, yes, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Armstrong, thank you, Diana. Okay, and 7.1 on your agenda is to note report of the Director of Regeneration and Planning. And Anne's bringing that. Is that correct, Anne?
That's correct, yes. Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide details regarding the acceptance of letters of offer, to note the opening of the grant aid programme, the first call for 24-25, and to provide an update on the regeneration and community actions for the period July 23 to November 23. So there are numbers of letters of comfort for Healthy Towns, Home Safety and Tobacco Enforcement Programme, and in terms of correspondence, the copy of the letter of support for the Home Safety Programme is attached at 8.1, and the Tobacco Enforcement Programme is attached at 8.2, and letters of offer will be issued in due course to confirm the allocation of funding for the extended period. And then just to note that the grant aid, the first grant aid programme for 24-25 will open on the 7th of February and close on the 6th of March. And the following grant streams are scheduled to open: community and wellbeing, community premises support, community services, project development grants, good relations schools programme, Irish in the community, seeding grants, summer scheme 2024, Ulster Scots in the community, and Verti draining. And the following bursaries will also open: Irish language and sports. And just for your information, just that project development, seeding, grant aid and sports bursaries are open all the year round on a rolling basis. Information sessions will be held to provide guidance and support for applicants, and the locations and dates of these sessions will be confirmed later and promoted via social media and the council website social media channels. Then in terms of 2.3, just that the table below provides an overview in terms of the number and status of actions raised at the Regeneration and Community Meeting for the period July 23 to November 23. And you'll note that 86% of all the actions are complete, 10 are in progress, and there are 3.5% outstanding. So just then in terms of the recommendations, notes the acceptance of the letters of comfort and the letters attached at 8.1 and 8.2. Notes the opening of the grant aid and bursaries first call for the financial year 24-25, opening on the 7th of February and closing on the 6th of March. And notes the Regeneration Community Actions update from July to November 23.
Thank you, Anne, for bringing us that. Maybe just if the proposer and seconder would be content to tie in those two pieces of correspondence at 8.1 and 8.2 as they're related to this. Thank you. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Yes, Chair, happy to propose the recommendations and those additional pieces of correspondence. I would just like to follow up in terms of the Irish language bursaries, that I would ask that when officers are reviewing any applications this year, that I know last year maybe less than 50% of those that applied actually received funding. So it's just that if we keep an open mind in terms of the value that we will offer people in terms of bursaries, to try and reach as many people that have applied as possible, just to consider that when reviewing the applications as opposed to having a set figure in mind. Happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder, please, members. Is there anyone to second that, please? Councillor Armstrong, thank you. I think that takes us through to item 8.3, members, is to note correspondence dated the 4th of January from Department for Communities regarding increased funding for advice services. That's for noting, is that correct, John? Yep. Do we have a proposer, please? And a seconder to note. Thank you, Councillor Rennie. And a seconder, please.
I'll second the noting, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Okay, 8.4, 1 and 2 are related to correspondence from Department for Communities and dated the 9th of January, correspondence from National Museums around Fintona horse-drawn tram. Both pieces of correspondence are related, so we'll go to Councillor Campbell.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. And obviously this is something that Councillor Barry McAduff had raised, and technical issues meant he can't speak at this point. But I suppose I want to support sort of Barry has worked on this for quite some time in terms of trying to relocate the Fintona horse tram back to Fintona, and this response, you know, is disappointing. It's not very substantial indeed. It's been more or less a blank no to that relocation, and I know that Barry previously had campaigned for this, and there was issues such as the fitness of the tram to be transported raised. That's not been raised this time. Other reasons been given now, you know, practical interpretive reasons quoted in the letter. No mention of fitness to be transported, you know, so I think that Councillor McAduff is keen, and I would support him that we don't sort of take a line down, that we keep fighting to see the tram return to the people of Fintona. Failing that in the short term, there really is no reason why it shouldn't be located at the nearest regional museum, which would be the Ulster American Folk Park, and that would definitely be a compromise. So I think that Barry, and you know, I've spoken to Barry at length about this, and I would agree that, you know, these are just excuses really. There doesn't seem to be a will to relocate the tram. It's not really about the fitness of it to be moved. It's about a lack of will to do that. So we have to keep trying to change that mindset. And I suppose I note that the tram was in great shape when visited in the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum. And from the interpretive point of view, many people in Fintona, as Irish immigrants starting off their journey to America, and elsewhere. You know, it's a relevant theme to the Ulster Mountain Folk Park in Omagh, and why not at least have the tram back in Tyrone. So I suppose we need a comprehensive strategy to engage and consult between the National Museum and local people, the National Museums NA, and local people to try and get Fintona sort of reconnected with the tram. So maybe there's curriculum work can be done for school children, etc. Fintona obviously being the closest proximity in terms of schools, but you know, this will be of interest beyond Fintona into Seskinore, Taddyray, the surrounding area of West Tyrone. You know, people that were familiar with the tram, travelled on the tram, or maybe worked on the Great Northern Railway. So this is an issue worth pursuing, and disappointing and all as the correspondence is. We need to continue really as a council to try and make this happen, Chair. So that's sort of my thoughts, and I think it reflects the thoughts of Councillor McAuliffe as well, who was keen to pursue this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Well, can we take that you're proposing to note these pieces, and we will note your comments there as well around pursuing this
Thank you
as well. Thank
Chairman.
you. Have we a seconder, members?
I'm happy to
for
second that, Chair.
Councillor Rainey, thank you. And Councillor Green had his hand up there as well.
Yeah, I was going to second it, but happy enough to let Alan come in as a Tyrone man there. Just on the same night, we were that Barry proposed that. I also proposed writing a letter to the new Foreign Secretary, the new English Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, as it was him was the Prime Minister the time of the G8 summit in Enniskillen, when they ran off with the G8 table back to Downing Street. In the darkness of night, I think they must have hid it under their coats or something and took it away. I don't know why they did it. It seemed a very, very petty act. And I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not maybe the most important issue at the minute, but the principle of the thing that they actually took the table from its own home place in Fermanagh. And I was just wondering, has there been any response back from David Cameron in relation to that, seeing his Foreign Secretary? Maybe one good thing he could do is return the table that he I was going to say nicked, but took with him.
Okay, I would assume there's been no response yet on that. Okay.
That's correct, Chair. We did issue the letters though, and it was also copied to the Prime Minister as well, but no response.
Well, await that. Okay. Thank you, Chief Executive. That's proposed and seconded. The pieces. There's one other piece of correspondence, members. 8.51 is correspondence dated the 11th of January from DFI regarding road safety in the vicinity of the bus stop at the church in Monet. This is for noting as well, members. Have we a proposer, please? A proposer and seconder, please, to note that item, members. Councillor Dan Armstrong proposed. Thank you. And a seconder, please.
Second. Sure.
Thank you. That was Councillor Rainey. Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed. I have got no AOB members. So Councillor Green, have you a hand up there? Maybe by mistake, but just I think we need to move to confidential members if we have a proposer and seconder for that. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Well, seconded, Chair.
Councillor Thompson, thank you.
Sorry, Chair. Just to clarify before we go to that, did we cover the passing bus letter from Dennis McMahon, Permanent Secretary, or?
Yep, that was just covered there. Councillor Green proposed and seconded. Yep, for noting.
But you talked to that there's a bus stop there, the last item.
The last piece of correspondence, yes, was from Dennis McMahon on the bus stop and the church in Monet. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a passing school bus as well loading letter. I have it here. It's in the pack, like it's dated the 11th of January 2024.
I can
think
clarify.
that is the same.
It's the same correspondence, Chair. The matter was raised in terms of the action to the Permanent Secretary in the context of the consideration of the Monet bus stop in the first instance. So that's why it's linked to that section of the minutes. But the letter in question is the same letter, Councillor Green, regarding the American model as opposed to what they have here. Of the flashing lights on the bus.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Just maybe there's a member calling in as well. Is there any possibility you could verify yourself on the mobile before we go to committee?
I understand it's Councillor McElduff, I think, but we can confirm.
Oh,
that.
possibly. Okay, okay. That's okay. Whenever maybe we're in committee now, are we, members? Or?
That should be back on now.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Could I ask Director John Boyle to sum up, please?
Yes, Chair. During confidential business, members received an update report on the redevelopment of the Fermanagh Lakeland Forum and noted the contents of the report.
Okay, and we just need a proposer and seconder for that, please, members.
I'll be proposed, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and Councillor Thompson, the second. Thank you, members. That brings our meeting to a close. Thank you for your help tonight, and to your team, our IT and directors and chief executive. Thank you to all, and we wish you a good evening. Thank you.
Well done, Chair, and everyone else.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
Well done, Chair. Thank you.